So, dear students, good morning to all of you. And we are going to start the class. And topic of this class is factors affecting plant growth and crop growth analysis. So, I will mainly cover the first part, factors affecting plant growth, and crop growth analysis must have been taught by some other instructor. However, I will give you some slides at the end of this presentation on the second topic. So learning objective of this class are to explain to you meaning of plant growth. What do we mean by plant growth and what are the factors that affect it? And before that, we should also learn why do we want to measure the growth? What is the purpose of measuring the growth of the plant or crops? Then we will see one by one different factors that affect the plant growth. Some difficult words or some terminology like base temperature. Base temperature is lowest temperature, threshold below which development ceases. Means plants would not be able to have any physiological functions if temperature is that much minimum or that much lower. Such temperature is called as base temperature. Biotic factors, an aspect of the environment related to organism or their interactions. You have certain set of conditions or certain ecology where you have both biotic and abiotic components. Biotic components are related to living things, your plants, your animals, and your all kind of microbes. Diversity, somebody's microphone is on. Please make it off. Diversity maybe with respect to plant, with respect to any living organism, the number or variety of species in a location, community, ecosystem or agroecosystem. So it can be diversity, can be at different scales. It can be at a regional scale, it can be at a very local scale also. The number and types of different species in a particular area is the diversity. Means what are the varieties and what is the population of individual variety that makes your diversity, or degree of heterogeneity of the biotic components of an ecosystem or agroecosystem. Genotype, individual or collection of individuals sharing the same genetic constitution. That is your genotype. Means they have similar DNA throughout. Genotype environment interaction, it is relative changes in genotype performance when grown under different environments. It is the interaction. Then phenology is the study of the sequences of developmental stages. So you will see what are different development stages in annual plants or seed-bearing plants, and difference in your growth and development also. So phenology studies the sequence of development of stages of plant and how it is related to the climate. Photoperiod sensitivity, requirement for a minimum or maximum day length for reproductive phase induction. That is your photoperiod. You might be knowing photoperiodism, means effect of light on development or on induction of flowering. Phylochrone, rate of appearance of leaves on a shoot, that is phylochrone. Plant, vegetative and reproductive plasticity, ability of an individual plant within a crop to modify the number of vegetative and or reproductive structures. Means plasticity here means the flexibility depending on the amount of available resources. Then profile is a plant structure resembling a leaf as a bracteole or consisting of a modified or rudimentary leaf. So this was in brief some terms or terminology you may come across in this lecture. Now, what is growth? Growth is a permanent and irreversible change in size and volume of a living structure with an accompanied increase in dry weight. So this is almost complete definition of growth: a permanent and irreversible change in size and volume of a living structure. And this pertains to living structure. This is not with respect to dead or non-living kind of things. And also same time, it should be accompanied by increased dry weight. One more definition by Hunt: it describes irreversible changes with time, which are mainly in size. Mainly in size, remember, mainly in size. However, this may be measured, often in different forms, maybe leaf number, maybe number of tillers, maybe size of the leaf, and so on, and occasionally in number. I repeat definition by Hunt: it describes irreversible changes with time, which are mainly size. However, this may be measured, often in form and occasionally in number. So that is the meaning of growth. Now question comes that what is the purpose of measuring the growth? Why we want to know about the growth? Whether my growth or growth of my crop or my plants is slow or fast, or is it optimum? Why should I measure the growth? What is the purpose of measuring or knowing about the growth? Can anyone tell us? Why we study this subject, growth of the plants? Yeah, please come forward. Your answer may be right or wrong, it does not matter. Thing is that you are listening to me and you are serious about the learning. So why do we measure the growth? What is the purpose of measuring the growth?
Our growth contributes towards yield, so that's why we measure.
Very good. So certain growth or growth parameters have a bearing, have a relationship with the yield. So we want to see what kind of growth will result in better yield or optimum yield. Very good. Any other idea about growth? If we know the growth pattern of the crop, we can also devise several inputs or our resources. We can use our resources judicially if we know the growth, at what point of time it is growing slow, at what point of time it is growing rapidly, and then at what point of time it is at slow pace or ordinary pace. So if we know the growth pattern of the plant, we can apply or we can use our resources according to the demand. Means the phases or stages where you get faster growth or rapid growth, at that stage plant may need more resources, more inputs. So we can optimize the inputs if we know the growth pattern of the crop. Now you see, this is a flow chart or diagram, typical life cycle of an annual seed bearing plant showing growth and development process. So this picture is made just to make you understand the difference in development and also you can know the factors that influence some growth and development. So you can see life starts for an annual plant with the zygote. You can see two cells unite to make one cell, and the egg is fertilized. Now it will develop into embryo, and then that embryo will be encased in seed. And then you put the seed in soil or anywhere you like, and then you want to get it germinated. So you also know different factors that will affect the germination: moisture, oxygen, temperature, and sometimes it may be light also. Then after germination is just emergence of your plumule and radicle. And after that, it may develop into a seedling, a young plant, a very young or tender plant. And then this seedling will start its vegetative growth. And vegetative growth can be measured in increase in height of the seedling or plant, number of leaves, how the leaves are increasing, or tillers or root dry weight or overall dry matter. So these are the parameters that tell us, or growth parameters that we can measure. Then the seedling will develop into a plant, and then several factors will come into picture from seedling to plants. They will affect the growth. We'll see what are the factors, and not just here. When plant is enters into the reproductive phase, then also there are number of factors that will affect the reproductive growth, and then flowering and fruiting in plant, and again the cycle repeats. So this is how you can see the development is happening. From zygote it is seed. So this is a phenological change. From seed it is germinating, from germination seedling, and seedling to plant or full grown plant, and then it will, after vegetative stage, it will go into reproductive stage and then form the seed. So these are actually developmental phases. Now, how this growth happens? So growth happens at cellular level, at cell level, because what you see from outside is the result of cell division. So the growth of an organ or individual organism occurs in 3 stages. Cell division, cells are divided by mitosis, you know it. Then after division, you can see in the picture, one cell is making 2, 2 is making your 4, 4 will make 8, and so on. This mitosis or cell division happens. And after that, cell enlargement. So size of individual cell increases after cell division. Then you will get further growth. So growth of the plants is mainly by cell division and cell enlargement. Of course, the morphological features, they develop by cell differentiation. So first there is production and enlargement of cells, and then happens the differentiation. Several factors or several internal and external factors come into place for cell differentiation. So structure of the cells changes to perform a specific function. A particular group of cell will be converted into one specific kind of morphological features. So the similar type of cells having same functions form a group. So you might be knowing how cell differentiation happens. So these are the 3 important aspects of cellular growth, and it converts to the actual growth, the division and enlargement of cells. Now, if you see, that was about, now you see about bacteria and algae. In bacteria and algae, entire body grows. Entire body grows. In higher plants, growth occurs in cell of growing regions. That is shoot apex or root tip. Means how or what are the plant parts where growth occurs. So it is mostly in apical regions where growing tissues are there. Maybe shoot apex or root tip, and close to the lateral sides of the stem or root. So lateral growth also occurs, and growth at the tips leads to elongation of the body parts, particularly increase in height. And growth at lateral side, sideways, leads to increased thickness of stem or root. Now, types of growth, there are 2 types of growth normally: determinate growth habit or determinate growth, and indeterminate growth habit normally. So plants grow to certain size and then stop growing due to presence of terminal inflorescence. So in case of determinate growth habit, there is clear distinction between vegetative phase and reproductive phase. So first plant will go through the vegetative phase, and then it will start reproductive phase. So that is your determinate type of growth habit found in rice, wheat, maize. Indeterminate growth habit, main stem continues to elongate indefinitely without being limited by terminal inflorescence or other reproductive structure. So in indeterminate growth habit, plant will start vegetative phase, and then the reproductive phase may come in between the vegetative phase. Means there will be a certain period of time in the life of the plant when vegetative and reproductive stages will overlap each other, or they will go hand in hand. They will go simultaneously for a certain period of time. That is your indeterminate growth habit. And in some legumes, you can observe it like cowpea and mung bean. Now, growth curve. So growth rate of plant varies with the time in life cycle. Initially slow and then can be fast and then again stationary. So this is your growth curve, means pattern of the growth. So this is for annual plants. Basically, this is for annual plants. Plotting the increase in cell number with time, a typical S-shaped curve is obtained. You know about sigmoid curve, sigmoid growth curve. So it has three phases. Lag phase is the initial phase when the rate of growth is very slow. Initial phase, this is your germination phase. Log phase, rapid growth and highest during the entire life cycle. Then log phase is multiplied, means it is very rapid phase. Then in the end comes your stationary phase. So rate of growth may be constant or may be similar or may fall down. You can see this picture, initially lag phase, slow phase. So seed germination and it loses weight. So there you can see it is reduction of the dry matter. You can see reduction in growth and then slow growth and then you get rapid growth phase, which is your log phase. And then you get the stationary phase where you can see the growth as is not increasing, rather it is almost constant or similar or may decline also. So this is your sigmoid growth curve. Any question at this point of time? Any question at this point of time? Anything in your mind?
No, sir.
Okay. Now measurement of plant growth. You are in MSc, most of you are in MSc, some may be in PhD and dealing with plants. Whatever your discipline may be there, but all of you deals with the plant. Then what are the ways we can measure the plants? So particularly agronomy students, they are supposed to do their thesis work and they record a lot of growth parameters, yield attributes, soil parameters and so on. So what are the parameters for measuring the growth? How we can measure it? So most of the time students go for dry matter accumulation in plant, whole plant above ground biomass or below ground biomass, or maybe sometimes we take observation on dry matter with respect to a specific plant part, means accumulation in the stem, leaf, or in some other reproductive parts and so on. Increase in height is also a measurement of plant growth, or length or breadth, size of the stem and so on. Increase in volume, particularly in case of root growth. In root growth, we measure root volume, which is indicative of the growth. Increase in leaf number and size, increase in branching and tillers. Branching is measured in your mustard or the crops where branching happens, like your legumes, cowpea, mung bean, etc. Increase in leaf number and size, we can measure the number of leaves, particularly in cereal crops. Increasing in branching and tillers. So tillers in tilling crops and branching in your branch crops where branching happens. Another parameters we can take like fresh weight. So in fresh weight, entire plant is harvested, cleaned and weighed fresh. We can also take dry weight. You can remove the moisture from the plants and whatever is left, then it is your dry weight. The length of leaf, length of or height of the plant, suitable for organ growing in one direction with uniform diameter. So it is possible to measure length also. We measure length of panicle, we measure length of certain fruits like bindi or your lady's finger, we can measure the length. Area, measuring the growth of plant organs like leaf. We measure leaf area also. So you can see weight, volume, area, and their morphological features, all are the parameters to measure the growth. Now we come to the factors affecting plant growth. So one of you already said that we want optimum yields. That is why we want to study the growth. We can manipulate the growth so that we get the optimum or economic yields. So yield mainly depends upon growth. If your growth is really too poor, then you cannot get good yields. If your growth is too high, then also sometimes you may not get good yields, particularly in crops where reproductive phase or stage is affected by excessive vegetative growth. In those cases, you cannot get better yields. So you want to optimize the yield. We want to optimize the yield, and then for optimization of yield, we need optimum growth, not lower growth or not too high growth. And because ultimately our purpose is to get highest return, why we grow crops, why we go for crop production or cultivation of crops, to earn money, to get returns, to get higher returns. So in this case, there are certain factors or certain resources that will affect the growth, and we need to learn those factors so that we can manipulate the growth for the benefit of higher yields and also higher returns. And as you might be knowing, if we consider the factors, so there are two important factors. One is genetics of the plant or crop, and other is environment. And you know, yield is the function of genetics and environment. And in environment, you have factors. So we'll discuss in detail different growth factors. So overall, you can see, according to Havlin, there are 52 factors that can affect the plant growth. So you can see there are large number of factors that affect the plant growth. However, farmers can control only 45 factors, according to Havlin, which must operate in unison to achieve higher yields as they are interrelated. So it is just like, law of minimum. It is just like law of minimum or law of limiting factors. All the factors may be all right, but one factor is very, very adverse. One factor is very, very adverse. So it can neutralize the benefit of the other factors. So all factors operate in unison, and optimum level of all factors should be there. Suppose your other factors, all nutrients are there, everything is there, but there is no water, no moisture. So just one factor will govern the output of the other factors. So growers cannot manage following 7 factors. Growers have very little influence on temperature. Whatever temperature is given by nature, under field condition, I'm talking about field conditions. So temperature, sunlight, violent storms, flooding, rainfall, carbon dioxide, altitude, etc. are generally beyond the management of the or reach of the grower. They cannot manipulate them much. However, growers can manipulate up to some extent rainfall. If rainfall is not there, you have irrigation sources, you can apply water by irrigation. Now you see, different people have given differing list of different factors. So you see in this, Strauss has given variety of factors that affect the potential yield of a crop, like certain soil factors, like organic matter of the soil, clay content in the soil, cation exchange capacity. So these are soil factors, quantity and intensity of light, slope and topography, percent sunshine, evaporation transpiration ratio, RH, temperature, and your degree days, irrigation, ties, water, so on. So you can see long list of factors that can affect the yield of the crop or growth of the crop. So normally the factors which are affecting the growth of the crop, almost same factor will ultimately affect the yield. So you can say the factors affecting growth or factor affecting yields are same or almost same. So you can see here Kunkel given the list of factors that affect the yield and quality of the potato crop, like frost-free period, Frost is very limiting factor, frost. If you get frost, so it can reduce the yield of potato and many crops. So frost-free period, air temperature, soil temperature, light intensity, and you can see the long list of factors. So variety of factors are there. So overall, you can see we can categorize these factors into this. You can see on the slide, like external factors and internal factor. Internal factors are your genetic factors. So in this diagram, you can see rest are external factors. So if you see, external factors are three: environmental, management, and socioeconomic factors. In environmental factors, you have two: biotic and abiotic. In abiotic factors, you can see it is wants, W-A-N-T-S, plants wants plus light. In wants, W is for water and wind. You can say wind is also a factor. And then atmosphere, A for atmosphere or air, N for nutrients, T for temperature, and S for soil factors. So you can see variety of factors are there. So here we will discuss most of the factors that will affect the growth of the plant. So now you see genetics or internal factors. So normally you can see the eucalyptus plant. Eucalyptus plant is very tall, and the dry weight produced by eucalyptus plant is very high. And see the plant of wheat or rice or maize. So it is all in genes. The growth of eucalyptus plant is more. Some plants will grow very fast also, like your poplar, and there may be many more plants. So it is in genes, it is in their genes. Some people grow very fast. You see some children remain stunted and very low weight, and some grow very fast, very tall. So it is all in their genes. So genetic characters are less influenced by environmental factors, since they are governed by genetic makeup of the crop. Of course, they are influenced by environment. There is no doubt about it. But most of the time, if they get ideal environment, then you will find differences in their growth potential. Why do we have varieties of the crop? Some variety may grow tall, some may grow short, some may grow very fast, some may grow slow. So these are all genetically controlled factors, genes that are controlling the growth. The increase in crop yields and other desirable characters are related to genetic makeup of plants. So now you see, with respect to growth, these genetic factors or internal factors. So you see the growth pattern of C3 and C4 plant is different. In general, the growth rate of C4 plants like maize is more than C3 plants. And varietal differences also exist in growth. So some plants have high yielding ability. So normally plants having high yielding ability, they have higher growth. They have higher growth or relatively more growth. Early maturity means less growth, but the speed of growth is fast. The speed of growth is fast, but overall the growth is low if you have early maturity. Resistance to lodging. If a particular plant is resistant to lodging, then it will have better growth than the plants which is susceptible to lodging, because lodging will reduce the growth. Lodging can happen for root lodging or stem lodging. It is going to influence the growth of the crop. Drought, flood, and salinity tolerance. Under drought condition, flood condition, there may be certain varieties which can do better, which can perform better growth than some other varieties. Tolerance to insect, pest, and disease. So you can have certain susceptible variety and certain resistant varieties. So resistant or tolerant variety may give you better growth. Chemical composition of grain, oil content, protein content. So you can see normally energy-rich crop, the crops which, this is about annual crops. Energy-rich crops where your protein and oils are produced in significant quantities. In that case, the growth is less compared to plants which produce more of carbohydrate. Like see, case of sugarcane or you see potato, the yields are high. But see the case of your pulses or oil seeds, the yields are lower. The overall biomass production is less. Quality of grains, fineness, coarseness, it also affects the growth. Quality of stalk. So overall, you can see improved genetics, increased yield potential. Now you have hybrids. So hybrids have more growth than the normal varieties or high-yielding varieties. But hybrids also require more nutrients. More nutrients are required. But growth is high in hybrids. Higher yields due to improved genetics may require more nutrients. Therefore, breeding for adaptation to different fertility condition is necessary. If your soil is not fertile, so you can have different kind of genotypes that can give better under low fertility conditions. Now you see external factors. So external factors as listed in the figure, there are environmental factor, management factor, and socioeconomic factors. Environmental factors are abiotic and biotic factors. So if we see abiotic factors, so many abiotic factors are interrelated. Abiotic factors, I have already told you, wants water, air, nutrients, temperature, soil, and light. So these are abiotic factors, and many of them are interrelated. Soil, air, and moisture in soil. If you remember in rice course I discussed this issue, soil, air, and moisture. So they are interchangeable. You see, if moisture come out from the soil or evaporated, then air will enter into it. And their relative proportion will determine the nutrient availability. The relative proportion of soil, air, and soil water or moisture will determine the nutrient availability, the microbial growth, and the root growth, and many things will be affected by this. And also the soil temperature. Soil temperature will be affected by soil, air, and moisture content. There is some relationship. If you get more air, less water, then you will have one kind of temperature in soil and vice versa. So oxygen and carbon dioxide in the soil, they are also, if one is more, the other will be less. Diffusion rate of oxygen to plant roots and soil temperature. And you see these kind of things, interrelated things are affected by soil properties. Soil, air, soil moisture, it will be affected by texture or structure. Water holding capacity is gas movement, soil organic matter, and organism pH. So there are certain soil properties like soil texture, water holding capacity, structure, gas movement, soil organic matter, organism pH. These kind of properties will affect the availability of air in soil or oxygen in soil and water in soil, and the exchange of carbon dioxide and oxygen from soil. So overall, these factors are going to affect the nutrient availability and root growth, and hence the plant growth. Now we will discuss these abiotic factors one by one. Temperature. Temperature is the measure of, or we will start this temperature in the next link. I think next link, I can stop here. So we come to temperature. Temperature is an important factor that affect the growth. This is external factor, abiotic factors. So how to define temperature? So it is a measure of intensity of heat. If suddenly somebody asks me what is temperature, so I can answer that it is a measure of intensity of heat. Limit of survival is -35 to +75 degrees centigrade. This question is usually asked in quiz examinations. You can remember. Limits of survival of plants, animals, and your microbes, all kind of living things. It can survive at most from -35 to +75 degrees centigrade. However, practical limits for plant survival is 15 to 40 degrees centigrade. And optimum temperature for plant growth are dynamic. They are not fixed. So they changes with species and variety differences. Some species, plant species or animal or whatever, we mainly deal with plant and microbes. So you get different limits. Some like to have lower temperature, some like to have higher temperature, and great ranges of temperature. And varietal differences are also there. Some variety may prefer lower temperature, higher, like in rice, you have seen indica rices and your japonica rices. Duration of exposure, how long temperature, a certain limits or degrees of temperature an individual is exposed. That is also many times required by some plants. Age of the plant, temperature varies with the age of the plant at, at one particular, and that is why you have different optimum temperature for germination, for your tillering, or for your flowering or your grain development. You will find different temperatures at different growth stages. So all these factors affect the optimum temperature: species, duration of exposure, age of the plant, and stage of development. Now, why temperature is important? The role of temperature. So many of you might be knowing, I will just flash the points, how temperature is important. Water and nutrient uptake, because it affects the movement of nutrients, it affects the movement of water, and then it affects the root activity also. And it also affects the transpiration. So it has role in transpiration. Transpiration cannot happen if water is not there in soil or it is not taken up by plant. Photosynthesis, water is necessary. I think you know that without water, photosynthesis cannot happen. Protein synthesis, sorry, this is not water, I'm sorry. I'm dealing with temperature. Just correct me, it is temperature. So water and nutrient uptake, you need optimum temperatures. And for transpiration also, temperature has a role. In photosynthesis, temperature is important. You need to have optimum temperature. Temperature is too low or too high, then you cannot get better carbon dioxide fixation. For protein synthesis also, you need some temperature, some right temperature. Of course, varies with the plant, but you need some kind of temperature for protein synthesis. If you get adverse temperature, then the protein synthesis will be affected. So is the case of respiration. So temperature has very important role in enzyme activity and in biochemical and physiological functions in plant. Cell wall permeability is very, very important. Through cell wall, your certain constituents or compounds or things are exchanged, or things pass from one cell to another cell. So cell wall permeability is very, very important for plant growth, and temperature has very significant influence on cell wall permeability. Microbial activity is very, very important, particularly in nutrient cycling. So it is affected by temperature. Flowering and maturity, of course, affected by temperature. So temperature has a very important role in all these functions in plant: flowering, maturity. So you see, we see the nutrient availability. So organic matter decomposition is affected by temperature. Temperature, you need relatively high temperature for organic matter decomposition. And if temperature is too low, then organic matter decomposition will happen at a very slow pace. Of course, many other factors also affect organic matter decomposition, like CN ratio or maybe water content. Microbial growth and development is influenced by temperature, and in turn, these microbes will affect your nutrient availability as well as root growth. Temperature has a significant role in pollen viability. If it is too high or too low, pollen viability is affected. Seed set and development, you need temperature, rate of senescence, quality, seed germination, pest and disease occurrence. Here also you have role of temperature. So I've given you long list of functions or role of temperature in plant's life. Here you can see temperature and rate of leaf appearance. So this is in relation to growth of the plant. If you consider leaf as a growth parameter, so how many leaves are produced per week or per 10 days. So on x-axis, you have temperature. On y-axis, you have rate of leaf appearance, leaves per day. So you can see this is the case of maize. As you are increasing the temperature, your leaf number per day is linearly increasing, That means maize like to have higher temperature. Relatively higher temperatures are good for maize. That is why maize is in general a tropical plant. Now see, these are the optimum soil temperature for maximum yield of important crops. Somebody has done and worked out the optimum soil temperatures for optimum yields of the crop. See here, you get temperature on x-axis and photosynthesis or rate of growth. You can call it indirectly rate of growth. Is in this case, you have two type of plants, C3 plants and C4 plants. So you can see temperature requirement of C4 plant is higher. This is just relative, not exact values are there. So you can see relatively C4 plants require higher temperature than C3 plant for more growth. See this case, factor affecting plant growth. In this case, quite interesting results. Effect of soil temperature on several mineral in potato tops and roots. So you can see this is the uptake of nutrients in top and root. Top part means above ground part and below ground part. So see the first case on the x-axis, you have temperature. One case is 5 degrees centigrade, other is 29 degrees centigrade. At 5 degrees centigrade, you can see calcium. Calcium is if you see calcium content is more in top portion if temperature is 29 degrees centigrade. Similarly, in root also, in case of root, the content of the calcium is more in root at 29 degrees centigrade compared to 5 degrees centigrade. But see the case of magnesium, next case, magnesium, 5 degrees centigrade, 29 degrees centigrade. So here you can see at 29 degrees centigrade, the magnesium content is more compared to 5 degrees centigrade in top portion. But at 5 degrees centigrade, you get more magnesium in roots compared to 29 degrees centigrade. So many interesting results from this picture. You try to understand the meaning of this picture. Temperature has influence on soil pH also. So soil pH increases in winter and decreases in summer. You need to underline it, decreases in summer. So it is why it is so, because of increased microbial activity in summer. In summer month, microbial activity increases. So therefore, the decomposition rate of soil organic matter is high and it releases carbon dioxide, and that makes carbonic acid, and which releases hydrogen ions and lowers the lowers the pH. It lowers the pH, and lower pH will increase the availability of iron, manganese, and copper. So temperature has an influence on soil pH. You can also have low temperatures. There may be two extremes. One is high temperature. So high temperature will also affect the growth. High temperature can increase the transpiration. It can increase the respiration. It can affect the protein synthesis. It can affect the uptake of the nutrients. So higher temperature is also not good. Similarly, lower temperature is also not good. Because of lower temperature, reduced root growth and cell wall permeability. At low temperature, reduced root growth and cell wall permeability, reduced nutrient and water uptake, reduced transpiration, reduced photosynthesis, and freezing injury. Freezing and chilling injury can also happen. So you can see the difference in chilling injury and frost and freezing injury. Chilling injury happens mostly in case of tropical and subtropical plants. Plants are adapted to the tropical or subtropical or high temperature conditions, but sometimes there may be some chilly time or chilly periods or cold periods. Then such kind of injury is your chilling injury. And frost and freezing injury happens in temperate plants, which are already growing under low temperature environment. There is some difference in chilling injury and frost and freezing injury. Frost and freezing injury is same, but chilling injury is different from frost and freezing injury. So in chilling injury, damage to plant parts caused by temperature above the freezing point. So it happens in tropical or subtropical plants. Leaves may become purple or reddish. So sometimes you can see changes in the leaf color to purple or reddish due to chilling injury. And that is why, if you remember, water, we normally call chilled water. Bring me a glass of chilled water. Why we call chilled? Because this water was having normal temperature, but we kept it in refrigerator and some other cooling system, and we have reduced the temperature, we have made it cool. So otherwise it was having normal temperature. So that is why this chilling injury. Frost and freezing injury. Frost appears on plants as ice crystals above freezing temperature. Plants are damaged by ice crystals that form outside or inside their tissues. So sometimes in the cells, your water is converted into ice crystals, and that break down the cell. So growth is affected by both, whether it is chilling injury or frost and freezing injury. Overall growth is affected by this. So according to the cold tolerance, plants are divided into three categories by Sutka and Galiba. Chill susceptible plants are damaged by temperature below 12 degrees centigrade. Chill susceptible, it is 12 degrees centigrade. Chill tolerant but freezing susceptible, able to acclimate to temperature below 20 degrees centigrade but unable to survive freezing. Freezing tolerant or frost tolerant, able to acclimatize to survive temperature significantly below freezing point. So therefore, plants have been classified into three different groups. Low temperature examples are banana, tropical plants like banana, papaya, they are chill susceptible. Several subtropical plants like capsicum, potato, tomato, they are chill tolerant but freezing susceptible. Certain herbaceous or woody plants characterized as freezing tolerant originated mostly from the temperate climate. So this is how these are some of the examples of this category of plant. And now heat unit or growing degree days concept. So many of you might be knowing about it. Some other instructor might have told you. So actually this is also called as number of growing degree days, GDD. Means plant would require certain heat units to complete its life cycle, starting from seed germination up to the maturity. So certain heat units are to be accumulated by the plant to complete its life cycle. If those heat units, those fixed heat units are made available to the plant under a reasonably shorter period of time, then plant will mature. You see the example of wheat crop. Wheat crop is normally sown in the month of November and December in India. Say starting from 1st November, it can go up to 30th December or sometimes 10th of January. But you see, the sowing time is different. It is spread over 2 months. But when we come to the harvesting time hardly varies, only 15 days. So harvesting of wheat is done in somewhere around 10th April to 20th or 25th April. 10 April to 25th April, most of the wheat is harvested within 15 days. What I mean to say, their sowing dates were so different, but their maturity dates were so close. So it happened because in summer month, all the plants get very fast the heat units in a very shorter period. So all mature almost together. Just think over it. So for example, for Gia maize, it is 2700 growing degree days to crop maturity. Beta vulgaris, it is 130 growing degree days to emergence, and 1500 GDD to maturity. So you can see it is fixed for all plants. The growing degree day or is a heat index that can be used to predict when a crop will reach maturity. Each day's growing degree days is calculated by subtracting a reference temperature, which varies with plant species from daily. You will see how this growing degree days is calculated. The base temperature is there, or reference temperature is there, which is taken as 10 degrees centigrade. So you can see here, growing degree days is equal to T max plus T min. This data you can take from thermometer and then divide by 2 minus base temperature. So base temperature here is 10. You suppose it was 23 maximum temperature. So make the total 23 plus 12. This is just one example and minus 10. So each day you will get 7.5. And if you know the total number of growing degree days of a plant, divide that value by 7.5. If it is across the, or you need to add daily, you need to find out daily basis. Can we modify the temperature, soil temperature up to some extent? Yes, we can modify it by alteration in time of sowing. We can alter the time of sowing. Amount of clay is important. It has very moderating effect on soil temperature. If you have more clay, so variation in temperature is slow. If you have more sand, then variation in temperature is very fast. So clay can moderate soil temperature. By moisture or irrigation, we can manipulate. If it is too high, we can apply water. If it is too low, then also we can apply water. So water can be helpful in this. So drainage can control tempo, because in summer months, you have standing water in the field, then a lot of hotness is there in the water. So it can be harmful to the plant, to the growth, and then you can drain it out. Mulching acts can reduce high temperature or can increase the lower temperature. So mulching is useful. And intercropping or multi-storied cropping can also control or manage or reduce the temperature. So up to some extent, we can manipulate the temperature. And I end it here, and tomorrow we will continue with the topic. Thank you very much. Your